It all started in July 12th, 1998, in Pennsylvania, at a random hospital that I do not know the name of. I think it's Lower Bucks Hospital, but when I looked it up in Google Maps, I could not find the place. So, hopefully it is a place somewhere. And I was born into a family of former gang members, drug dealers, people that just do drugs in general, and all that good stuff. Some good people. On one side of the family, I had some Air Force people, some Marines, Army veterans, but those are like grandparents, great-grandparents. And when I was first born, my father was born, or he wasn't born. When I was first born, my dad was in prison for a car theft thing. He was a part of it. He wasn't actually the person who did it, but he was involved. So he got sentenced for 2 years, which is a lot of the time I spent for the first 2 years of my life. I would go and visit him in the prison place, which I don't remember. I'm glad I don't, to be honest. And so for the first 2 years of my life, I lived with my mother, who usually set me off with her mother because she was off doing drugs, prostitution, all that crap. And my dad got out of prison. He took me and moved all the way down to South Carolina with my great-grandmother, where I lived for a couple of years. Then we moved to Georgia, and he was still a drunk and did drugs and stuff. And this is kind of where the abuse started. He used to physically abuse me, punching, kicking, all that stuff. He was very, very physical and very strict with his punishments. And after a few years, we lived in Georgia. I was probably around 3.5, maybe 4, probably going on 4 or 5. And I got kicked out of my daycare for being white. Isn't that funny? I'll actually tell you guys a story. I was at an all-black daycare, whitest kid in the fucking town. I'm white already to other white people, so it's like, hi, kind of sticking out there like a sore thumb. Stood up on the table at a party because someone stole my soda. They were like, fuck you, white boy. I'm taking your soda, son. I'm taking your soda. I'm just like, oh, you just want to take my soda? Taking my soda and I jump out on the table and stuck a middle finger to them all. It's like, screw you. I want the soda back. And got kicked out. And that's that. So, yeah. I know I shouldn't have spoken like that, but you know what? Fuck it, dude. I don't care. If it's bad, I'll redo it. It's simple. So, anyways, my dad moved me and him all the way from Georgia to Maine. So we went all the way up to Maine. And we moved to a town called Farmingdale, where I spent my first year in school, kindergarten. And I was a troublemaker then. I was a bad kid. I got up on the table and fucking flipped everybody off all the time. Like, I ain't give a fuck. I went on the hallway all the time and told me to sit down. I was standing the fuck up. Like, screw you, I'm standing up. I ain't sitting down. I ain't gonna fall to this oppression. But anyways, moving on from that. After the first year of my school career, my dad moved me and him to another place called Augusta, where I spent my first grade year. And he met a woman, nicest girl you ever met. She was like 17. She was my babysitter. Her and my dad were 7 years apart, but it's whatever, right? So, started off as my babysitter, and there was some domestic violence issues between her and her boyfriend, and somehow my dad and her got together. A year later, we moved to Richmond during my second grade year, which is another town over, and they had my brother. And at this time, this is when the physical abuse really started, because they both started doing a lot of drugs. And it really fucked them up. And a lot of people are really in support of weed. Like, it's a great thing. Like, it's just some beautiful thing. And obviously we know the other drugs are horrible. But that's what my dad and stepmom, quote unquote, did. They smoked a lot of weed and did a lot of pill sniffing or cocaine, whatever it is. They did a lot of it. So they abused me quite a bit. I was always physically punished if they saw fit to me getting the punishment. If I did something measly that any other kid would do, I'd get fucking punched or kicked or picked up and thrown around. Or my dad used to grab me by the throat, put me up against the fucking wall, and just hold me there and bite my ear or some shit. And that went on for about a year, until one day I got kicked off the bus for quote unquote spitting, which was basically me just going to my best friend. and they told on me. I got kicked off the bus, which is kind of bullshit, but I was given a detention slip noticing my parents about me getting kicked off, and I was so scared that I just made up my own punishment, and I forged a signature thinking that it was a normal punishment that any other kid was getting. And for the punishment, what I wrote down was that they had picked me up, thrown me across the room, put me in the corner. So that kind of opened their eyes up. They were like, wait, what? So they drove me home. The principal herself drove me to my house and told them about the whole ordeal. And then she told them that they hadn't even gotten the sheet. So I was sitting there like, shit, dude, I'm about to get fucking whooped when they find this shit out. So hearing that I quote unquote spit on someone, my stepmother literally spit in my fucking face. Grossest thing ever. But she spit in my face, slapped me around. Dad put me in the corner for hours, and that's how I spent the rest of that evening. But that whole incident kind of gave notice to the state, like, wait, what's going on here? We need to look into this. So they started watching us, basically, as far as abuse goes. Because I always had bruises on my legs and thighs caused by my dad punching me in the legs. So then we moved again, because of it, to Augusta, back where I originally lived. And we lived in the most ghetto-y place you could possibly imagine. Our landlord was arrested for a whole bunch of shit, fraud and all that. There was 120 fucking sex offenders living on my hill. We called it Sand Hill. Bad neighborhood, a lot of ghetto-y people, a lot of scummy people, a lot of sex offenders, pedophiles. It was just a junkyard. The whole hill was just full of trash on the outside in the woods. So during this whole ordeal, living there, the abuse continued as usual. They did a lot of drugs, went partying. They let me shoot BB guns in the street and a whole bunch of other shit. Which actually, I think when I was around 8 or 9, my dad had a CO2 powered pistol. It was very powerful. And my brother got it out of the fucking drawer, because I had a brother and sister at this point. They were both born a year apart. One was 7 then when I was 7, and the other one when I was 8. So they were both like 2 and 3 at the time. And my brother went into the top drawer of my dad's bureau, pulled out the BB gun and shot me in the head. I had nothing to do about it, nothing to speak. It grazed my eye and went into the right side of my temple. So it didn't go into the eye socket or anything. But if I had gone over just an inch or a centimeter looking to the right, my eye wouldn't even be here anymore. I would never be able to see in that shit again. So if there is God, then he was definitely watching me that day. I'm not going to get into that, by the way, because I'm not sure how I feel about the religion shit. But anyways, after that whole incident, state got more involved with us. They're like, yo, why is there so much fucking violence, son? Because they had a lot of domestic violence issues. Physical report issues kept coming up all the time. And that's basically that for the next 3, 4, and then 5th grades. I screwed that up completely, but 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I stayed in that same place, same town, same school. And then finally one day, after a big domestic violence dispute between my dad and stepmother, quote unquote, the state came, knocked on our door, and was like, yo, this is the police, open up your fucking door. And it was one of those days where my dad and me were having a good time. We were just sitting there chilling out, away from basically having freedom from the witch that was my stepmother. And we were cleaning the house up. The cops came in, they were like, yo, your son's been taken into custody of foster care. And that's that. Dad bawled down, started crying. And there I was, little 10-year-old me. Just turned 10 not too long ago, really before that. And I moved into foster care. Me and my brother and sister all got taken into a home in another town over called Chelsea, where I stayed for about 2 weeks. And then they couldn't handle us anymore. They were like, screw you. We don't like you. You guys are too hard to handle, so they split us up. My brother and sister went off to themselves to another home. And the state basically just left me to fend for myself. They put me in another home by myself. Just me. They let my brother and sister go off and just let me to be me. That was hard. That really was. Here I was, just a normal kid. I mean, I had a lot of shit going on, but I was trying, man. I had a strong physical inside, strong mental state. I've always been proud to have been strong mentally. And I was fine. I coped with it somehow. I coped through all the shit to where I was a fine, normal kid. Sure, I had some problems here and there because of fucking just being an idiot in school. Nothing major, just like any other kid. I was a jokester. I was a talkative little guy. I used to talk all the time. I used to be a joker of class all the time, especially in French class. I used to make so many jokes and be so sarcastic. It was actually quite funny. But, so yeah, I got taken in foster care, went on my own for about a year to finish off the rest of 6th grade. Then about 4 months into 7th grade, I went in respite, which is where I go to another foster home for about 2 weeks because the other ones moved, or not moved, but went somewhere on vacation and left me. So I went there and I figured, hey, I like it better here. So when they got back, I moved to Augusta, back to where my friends used to go. And then I went to school there to finish off my whole, or to finish off 7th grade. Or no, it wasn't 7th grade, finish off 6th grade. I don't know. I have my years mixed up, man. It was a long time ago. Pretty sure I was in 6th grade at the time. 6th grade throughout all of this. So it's when half of 6th grade was in a town called Winslow. Half of 6th grade was spent in another town in Augusta, back with my old friends. So all went as usual. And then I got adopted by my grandparents over in New Jersey. So right before the 7th grade school year started, I moved out to New Jersey. And about halfway through the year, or 4 months into the year, we figured they were abusive. They were horribly abusive, just like before. They used to beat on us all the time, and it came down to one final straw where I finally just called the cops, and the cops came, and the state took us into custody, and we moved back on to Maine, and I went back to the same people I was with before, and I finished off the rest of my 7th grade year in a place called Winthrop, and I made a lot of friends that year. A lot of people that I really enjoyed the company of. I had a lot of friends. I used to participate in some after-school programs. I tampered a little bit with sports, but then I quit because social anxiety got to me. Because I fucking struck out once. I was upset. Not that I'm a quitter, it's just like the social anxiety was just so severe to me. But I was fine. The social anxiety wasn't to a level where I didn't have friends or anything. And, that's when everything changed again. The foster home didn't work out, and I changed schools and changed towns. Moved to a place back in Augusta where I went to school for the beginning of my 8th grade year, finished off the whole year, and it turns out that those foster parents were abusive, so we moved again right in the beginning of 9th grade to another place in the same family I was with before, over in Winthrop. But instead of changing schools, I stayed for the first half of the year. And it didn't work out with that school. I didn't want to stay there anymore. So I changed schools to Winthrop, thinking it was going to be all sweet and stuff. I'd say a couple months in, the foster home didn't work out again. And I moved to Winslow, where I finished off the rest of that year. But then the foster family was telling me that I either had to change schools or I had to move foster homes again for the beginning of my 10th grade year. So I moved, and that's basically where I am now. It's 10th grade year all the way through, and going into the beginning of 11th now. So I mean, that's basically it. One thing with me that I still struggle with is social anxiety. All those years in foster care, all these times moving, which I moved a lot, in case you guys haven't noticed by now. It's been rough. It really affected me socially. But I don't need to go into that. That's another discussion for another day. I figured I'd make this video to kind of get personal with you guys. Let you guys know who's behind the videos, what I do, who I am. Like, what I went through to become the person that I am today. What my resolve is and all this great stuff. My morals, how it all formed. What I've actually gone through in life, and I figure that's important. I'm a very open person, open book when it comes to my own life, and I figured I'd share it with you guys because, I don't know, maybe you can learn something from it. I don't know if you really can, because this wasn't really a life lesson, this was just a life story. But I mean, the whole thing is to know that just things are always going to get better eventually, no matter what. And I think that's what helped me throughout my years, being in foster care and the abusive households that I was in, I always just told myself, it was going to be okay. And everything was going to be fine. And I was going to hold myself above everyone else, that I was not going to sink down to the level of many other people, start doing drugs, start doing alcohol, start fucking doing a whole bunch of mischievous shit, because I'm not that kind of guy. I wanted to be above that and just be a normal fucking nerd. Normal nerd, man. That's what I wanted to be. No, I didn't want to be a nerd, but I just wanted to be a normal kid. So I did. I tried my best. But anyways, guys, I know a whole lot of you aren't going to still be watching. I know it's about 16-minute mark, going on 17 minutes. But anybody who did watch this, you're the man. You really are. So yeah, that's about it, guys. I've been Zio, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.